Right, so we are going to be looking at the company profile. So I'm going to flip back here and you'll see for the organizational setup, the global user interface, it's described the information found in the company profile. So we will be looking at the fiscal year, business hours, currency management, default settings, and company information. Just excuse that little window down there. Okay, so we're going to go back into our developer org and we're going to go to the setup menu. So I select that and we're going to scroll down to company profile. And as you scroll further down, you'll see the company profile consists of company information, fiscal year, business hours, holidays, and language settings. So within the company information link, this is where you would have your organization name, you would have the primary contact of your organization, the address. I've just put in my details just as an example. And you would also be able to select if your organization was working with multiple currencies, you would select allow support to activate multiple currencies. And I'm just going to click on edit just to show you. So I'm going to scroll down and you've got a little eye for information. And it's important to note that if you're going to select this option, this is the first step of you need to select this option. And then to complete the process, you're going to contact the Salesforce representative for your organization. And they will determine the best time for the multiple currencies to be enabled. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel out of here. Over here, you have your default locale. So it's your English for the United States. The default language for the organization as a whole will be English. Your default time zone, you would change it to whichever time zone you were in. And your currency locale. So because we're in the United States, it shows it's a US dollar. But if you were in Germany, you would change it to that and it would give you the currency for Germany. Over here, you would be able to see your Salesforce org ID. Now, this is important if you have to call Salesforce support and they need your org ID. This is where you would find it under the company information. I'm going to scroll further down, and here you will see what we call related lists. So here you have user licenses, permission set licenses, and further down you have feature licenses. So these are related lists that are under the main record. So your user licenses, it will show you all the user licenses for your organization. It will give you the total licenses, their status, the licenses that have been used, the remaining licenses, as well as the expiration date. Now, because this is a developer org and they automatically will assign 2 free licenses. So that's why you see that. We'll get into permission sets at a later date, and feature licenses we'll also look at in more depth in a few minutes, possibly in the next video. So here you can see your feature licenses, and they just give you the status, the total licenses, used licenses, and remaining licenses. If you'll note, it doesn't give you the expiration date because your feature licenses basically piggyback off your user licenses. So your feature license is just additional functionality that your user will have that they don't normally have on their own profile and user license. Okay, so I'm going to move on from here. We're going to be looking at fiscal year. And this is where you would set the fiscal year. It could be standard, which will be based off the Gregorian calendar. And you would just select whichever month. It would be ending month or the starting of the month. Or you could select a custom fiscal year. And here you would enable it however you want it recorded in your organization. So there is a note here that before enabling custom fiscal years, you need to consider the following items. So this can't be changed. So once you've enabled it, it cannot be disabled. So take your time and just read through that and get an understanding of that. But basically it can't be disabled once you've enabled the custom fiscal year. I'm going to move on to business hours, and this is where you would set the business hours. And here I've created a business hours already for my organization, but you can go into new business hours if you hadn't created, and you would give the business hours name, you would set it to active, and you could decide if you wanted to make these the default business hours and the time zone, and then you would select the times that your business was open. One thing to note that the business hours determine the times that cases are escalated. So just keep that in mind. The next link we're going to look at under company profile are the holidays. And here you would record any holidays. So Christmas or New Year or Thanksgiving, you would record here. Okay, and obviously your holiday hours are the dates and times when your business hours are suspended. Let's go back into company profile, and this over here is the language settings. So if you have multiple language users in your organization, you would be able to enable the language end user languages, and you would be able to select and make them available. So if you wanted to make Spanish available, sorry, that's removing it, but if you wanted to add it. So all these languages are available to the end user, and you would just save. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of that. So that's the first section or the first bullet point of the study guide. And yes, we will move on to the next bullet point.